So this video is going to have a lot of spoilers since I'm talking about Far Cry 5's ending. If you don't want spoilers but you still want to watch content like this video, I put a playlist down below in a pinned comment that has very similar content that you can check out instead. It's kind of funny I'm making this video. I'm very much so a gameplay over story type of person. Your game could have the worst story in the world but amazing gameplay and I'm going to love the hell out of it. But it doesn't really work the other way around. If you have bad gameplay and a good story, I'm not really going to like your game very much. Far Cry 3 and 4 are really good examples of this. I did not like the stories of those games at all, but I really liked the gameplay, so I love the Far Cry franchise. With that said, it's not really black and white. You can have really good gameplay and really good story, and if you have good both, well then your game is even better for it. Unfortunately, that's not the case with really any of the Far Cry games, even though I think Far Cry 5 does take a step in the right direction. It falls flat on its face at the very end. Now, to make something clear, I really liked Far Cry 5. I can argue it's the best Far Cry game in the entire franchise, but oh man, the ending sucks. The ending is so awful. Now, I actually need to step back and talk about Far Cry 3 and 4 really quick before I get to Far Cry 5 so you can understand where I'm coming from. I'll try to keep this brief. I really like Far Cry's open world gameplay. I like being able to choose whatever guns, whatever loadout I want, and to approach a situation in any way I want. This is really fun to me. But the story always let me down in Far Cry 3 and 4, especially because it interrupted the gameplay all the time. Far Cry 3 and 4 have really similar problems. Both of them have protagonists that are just not likable and are very annoying. In Far Cry 3, you have SoCal frat party group douchebag types that are not relatable to anyone and are just obnoxious. I did not care what happened to them at all. To make things worse, there's supposed to be a character development with Jason Brody where he's supposed to become a person that has never had to deal with like death or this type of thing, and then he grows into it, and this doesn't really play out in the game. In all reality, what ends up happening in the game is that he goes from being a complete pussy one mission to liking killing people the next. It's not written well at all. In Far Cry 4, the protagonists are really annoying. Sabal is pushy and Amanita is just a cunt. The main character that you play as, AJ, is just sort of there. He lets people tell him anything. He does whatever he is told. He doesn't even have a real reason to be there. He's just there to scatter his mother's ashes. He could have just left and should have. I don't know why he's fighting in the Civil War. So no one's really likable. In fact, the most likable characters in Far Cry 3 and 4 are the antagonists, Voss and Pagan Min. But to make matters worse, the way they presented the story to you was really, really intrusive. For example, there was always something on the map, always a story mission marker, and when you went to that story mission, it would throw you into a very linear Call of Duty style single player mission. It took away everything that made the open world aspect good and forced you down a one single path and you have to play a specific way. To make things worse, if there was some context in the story that just needed to be there, now you're forced to play that way. What this boils down to is that you have a lot of shooter tropes. You have to tail someone for a certain amount of time and you can't get too close so the mission just fails and you restart from checkpoint. You can't get too far away or it fails and restarts from checkpoint. You have to sneak up on a general that doesn't know you're supposed to be there, so you have to stealth by everyone, and if anyone sees you, instant failure. You can't even shoot them because it wouldn't make sense because then the general would run away. This has to make sense within the story, but if you look at it from within a gameplay perspective, it interrupts everything and is just obnoxious. So when you already don't like the stories of Far Cry 3 and 4, these missions really take a lot away from the game. Stepping forward to Far Cry 5, it doesn't do any of this. Amazingly. I was really open to the idea of being a silent protagonist in Far Cry 5 because Ubisoft has shown they don't know how to write a protagonist without him being really obnoxious. And it worked. It opens up a lot more customization. You can dress any way you want to, your character is just there. It works really well with co-op too. But also the supporting cast around you isn't annoying, so that was a huge step up. In fact, the whole story was written better than Far Cry 3 and 4. It matches current events and it seems to happen in a place where it would be believable for this to happen. The antagonists are just as engrossing as they were in the previous game, but now there's 4 of them. And really, it got my hopes up for Far Cry 5's story. In the previous Far Cry games, I wasn't invested in the story at all. I just wanted to keep playing the game. Whereas Far Cry 5 had really good gameplay and also the story it kept my attention. It was good. But best of all, it never pulled you away from the game to shove it in your face. Instead of having story missions you just go to and then suddenly you're thrown into them or you have to play a specific way, you had a reputation bar on the top of the screen. Once that was full, then you got pulled into a story mission, but none of these story missions forced you to play like, say, forced stealth or forced tailing missions or any of the shooter tropes that we had to do in the previous games. This is a huge step up. It is still pretty jarring to suddenly be pulled into one of these missions, but it's much less jarring than the way it used to be. This means the game is truly open now. From the very start of the game, you can go in any direction. There are 3 different regions, all of which have their own boss that are distinct from one another, and again, they're all engrossing. You want to know what they're going to do next. Once you take down these 3 bosses, you can fight the main bad guy, Joseph Seed. This is where the game falls apart. There are 3 different endings to the game. One's an Easter egg ending that's not very remarkable. You go into the church at the beginning of the game to arrest Joseph Seed, and then you just decide, you know what, I'm not going to do this, it's too risky, we will die if we try to do this, so let's leave. And that's pretty much it. There's the bad ending, where, again, at the end of the game, you're given the choice to leave or try to arrest Joseph Seed. If you choose to leave, you get back into a truck, you start driving away, and it turns out you're a sleeper agent, and you kill all your friendlies. Ending sucks, but that's the bad ending. Whatever, I can live with it. There's always a bad ending here. However, there's a quote-unquote good ending, which I'm not going to refer to as the good ending. I will call it the nuclear ending from now on. It's just awful. In the nuclear ending, it turns out Joseph Seed was right, apparently, and people are nuking Montana for whatever reason. This apparently was somewhat referred to in the game, but I never remember ever seeing anything about this. Suddenly, everything is being nuked. It's random, it comes out of nowhere. It just seems like a twist for the sake of there being a twist. Like, why is Montana being nuked? What is going on? Well, at this point, you have arrested Joseph Seed, so you get into a truck and start driving away. Extra fun fact, if you're doing this co-op, this is a pain in the ass, because your co-op partner is driving an ATV behind you, which is much slower than your pickup truck, and if you get too far away, well then your truck explodes for no reason, and you fail and you restart from checkpoint. You don't get any warning before your truck explodes, it just does. I don't know why they didn't think this through. They should have given both people, both your co-op partner and you, the same truck so you can go the same speed, but no. Anyway, getting off topic. You drive far enough away, and a tree falls on your truck, and this knocks you out. Apparently everyone else in the truck died except for you and Joseph Seed. Joseph Seed picks you up, takes you into a bunker, handcuffs you to a bed frame or something, and he says, "You killed my entire family. I should kill you for it, but I won't. You're my only family now, and we're living together." And then the game ends. Are you fucking kidding me? That's the end of the game? There is no good ending to this game, and I'm not asking for a good ending. Here's the thing. Some of my favorite endings to games are not good endings. For example, I consider Fear Extraction Point to be the true end to the Fear franchise. It couldn't have ended any other better way. Instead, it was considered not canon and just didn't happen. Another great example is Spec Ops: The Line. Not a very happy story, but damn do I love that game. This, however, feels extremely unfulfilling because the nuclear section just came out of nowhere. Why are there nukes again? This was not foreshadowed well at all. And secondly, it feels like everything you did meant nothing. Everything you did in Montana, you might as well have just forgotten it. Again, it means nothing. Now, I could forgive all of this and I could ignore all of this if one thing was changed. If they just let us kill Joseph Seed. The whole game is built up to killing these bosses, and then you finally get to the final boss, which you had worked the whole game to get there, and you don't get to do it. You feel really cheated, and even though it doesn't ruin the game, because again, I still love Far Cry 5, I'm not saying the ending is going to ruin a game. A game should be judged on the game's merits, not, it's not a movie. It can't get destroyed by the ending, but holy fuck, does it take it down a notch. But if you wanted to take any point out of this entire video, it's just that you can't kill Joseph Seed. I find that to be really bullshit, not satisfying, and unfulfilling. But that's all I really got to say about Far Cry 5. Quick thanks to all you guys over on my patrons. If you guys care to help me out over on Patreon, you can click right over here on this part of the screen. There's other ways to donate to me if you really want to. I usually wouldn't ask, but YouTube is really screwing me over right now, and I don't have a lot of money, so any help is really appreciated. Again, sorry for asking, but thank you for watching the video regardless.